So I'm going to work on keyvisual for my product. So in my case it would be some wine. So let's assume that this is the logo. I've also downloaded wine bottle mockup. So once again, this is mockup world, but website. But you can find it anyway, a different way, just by using Google. So if you're looking for a mockup that will work for your product, it is fine. So there is this mockup that I downloaded. I would open mockup example. So this is the file, this is the mockup that we can see in here, and as you can see, like I've already mentioned how the mockup works, but what I want to do right now is I want to use my logo on this bottle of wine and get rid of the rest. So I will just disable corkscrew, I will disable background. I do not want to see the shadow, because for my key visual I would prefer to add it by myself, so I will disable the shadow. And this is what I've got in here. So I've got the bottle and I can already see on all those layers your design here. So if I turn on and off, so I actually know that this is the layer. So by this icon I know that this is vectors, that this is smart object. So if I double click, I would open the file that is inside the mockup. So and we can barely see, but we can see that there is the logo. So I will turn off the logo and I will put my own. So I will select my logo, click Ctrl C, click Ctrl V, paste it to my mockup. Okay, maybe right click on it, go to blending options, and let's use white color. So we want to use white color. Let's close it, let's save the layer so it will automatically update. Generally it's fine. I think the logo is too big and it should be higher. Maybe I should design it in different ways, but just to make the video faster I will do it like this. Okay, so this is maybe a little bit smaller. So one moment, I think it's too big and it's looking odd. Okay, so we've created a bottle that we would be able to use on our mockup. So for our key visual we would need three versions. So one would be roll up, one would be banner, and they're all big size media. So just we have to remember about it. So 800 to 200 centimeters and 300 to 100 centimeter, but also some much smaller medium for social media, let's say for Facebook fan page. So those sizes may vary depending on what kind of fan page you have, but it's not so important. So like those two would be the most important. The third one just you would need to provide in a JPG file. Okay, so because I know that my key visual has to work actually in horizontal and vertical orientation, so I have to make it flexible. When I create it, I need to actually be able to modify it in a way that it will be the same key visual and it still will look good no matter the proportions. So this is a start for me. So what I want to do with my key visual is I want to use a photo of a road and a forest and put a bottle of wine in that photo. So this is my plan for key visual, and add some slogan there. So this is the photo that I'm going to use as a part of my key visual, and I can already tell that it will work fine in both dimensions. So if I just make a selection, so for roll up it would be something like this, more or less, and for banner it would be something like this. And if I arrange typography, elements on it, it will still work fine. Maybe I would need to add some elements, Maybe I would need to modify a photo a little bit, but for now I will stick to it. I think it would be fine. What is important is that the photo has a pretty high resolution, so you can see it got almost 5000 width on the pixels and 3000 pixels on the height. The bigger the better, of course. And for now, I would not worry about the size of my elements. I will just create my key visual as it should look in here. But later, just for one example, I will modify it and make it work as, for example, roll up or a banner. I am not sure which one I will do at this point. You, of course, will have to provide both of them. Okay, so let's grab our bottle and I will click Ctrl A, Shift Ctrl C, go back to my photo, click Ctrl V to paste it. I will paste it as a smart object, and I think I have copied it not correctly. So once again, Ctrl A, I will go to Edit, Copy Merged, and see what has happened. Okay, I think I've made the wrong selection. So in my case, fortunately, the mockup was also high resolution, and it actually fits, like the size is almost perfect. So maybe let's convert it to smart object. So right click, convert it to smart object, so I can scale it. So probably this size would be fine, and I will put it somewhere in here and add the typography and like create this key visual for me. So when we are compositing two photos together, so we've got bottle and we've got background, there are few important things that you always have to take into consideration. So first is the amount of light that we can see in the picture. The second one is perspective, and the third one are like general the proportions. So but let's focus on the first one. So the first one, so the light's direction and amount of light. So by amount of light, what I mean is also everything that is connected actually with the colors that are in the picture. So we can see that the light comes from top to the bottom, so actually the bottle should be brighter at the top, so somewhere in these areas, and darker and in the bottom. Also the saturation of the colors should match together. So if we've got dark photo and we want to composite it with another photo, this another photo should also be dark, or we need to adjust it to make it look like it's dark. Because if in this case actually they are not bad together, like they are already matching okay. I will fix it anyways to make them match a little bit more. But sometimes you have to like adjust much more things. And the second thing is a perspective. So because my bottle and this got really straight, simple perspective, it's not a problem to use this element. But if the bottle would be like the photo would be with some kind of angle, and the bottle would be lying on here on the road, well, it could be much more difficult. In my case, it's super simple, which is fine for me. Okay, so let's start with making the colors match a little bit more. So before I start matching colors, I will save my file as, let's just call it key visual template, just in case that something will happen. And I will use match color option that's available in Photoshop and show you how actually this works, and it's pretty useful. It's not always perfect, but it's pretty useful. The problem with it is it's not working, unfortunately, on the smart object. So I will duplicate this layer. I will leave one layer just in case to have it when something happens and I want to go back to my source file. I will right click on it. Maybe before I click right on it, let me show you what will happen. If I go to image adjustment, match color option is not available. So what I need to actually do is I need to rasterize it. So right click, rasterize layer, go to image adjustment, and match color is active right now. So I click on match color, and what match color does is tries to adjust one image, so in my case the bottle, to the other image, so in my case to this road. So first we need to give Photoshop information about our source layer. So source means that that the other layer will take colors from it. So in our case the document is keyvisual template, because this is keyvisual template. We don't want to use those two documents, we want to use this one. And the layer that is important for us is actually background, as you can see, because the background is in here. So this is the layer that we want to use. And by default, as you can see, it, like, maybe let me turn it off for a moment. By default it changed all the colors. So if I once again, so right now actually it's not working perfectly because I had this cap in red, so I dislike it. So what I may want to do is I may want to like use this fade option to make it match partially. Also I can play with color intensity to actually select how much of the color I want to the old color I want to leave. And actually I think that this and we've got also luminance option for brightness, but actually I think this one is working pretty nice because we've got light coming from top and this area is bright. It got a little bit more of green, so the color is a little bit different, but it's actually, in my opinion, it will look more natural. And what is important is that previously those areas were light gray, or like they were bright with no color, and this added a little bit of, as you can see, like not even a little bit, the color became green. So but all those leaves, all those trees will, and the light will actually make it look like this, so this will look more natural. And once again we can like play with a little bit with the luminance. I think something like this may be fine. Also the white is not white anymore, but it got this green tint in it, and for me it's fine. Well, like, so sometimes it's a matter of opinion, but for me it works for the best. So those three controllers just experiment with themselves, with them, and it's going to be fine. So let's click on OK. So our first step is fine, so we've matched the color. The second thing is we need to add the shadow. The easiest way to do it, I will just create an ellipse, black ellipse at the bottom, double click on it, click on black color, put it underneath our bottle, and let's try to blur it. So I will go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Let's rasterize it. Okay, I think something like this would be fine. So we can move it, adjust it so it will match a little bit. So something like this, because the light is coming from top. What I dislike in here is if I really zoom in, I can see that this black is a little bit different than the shadows that are in here. So what I can do is right click, go to blending option, click on color overlay, select this color, click on OK, and right now it matches a little bit more to the whole image. So another step is closer. And the third one is those areas should be brighter because the light is coming from top, and bottom areas should be darker because there is less light in here. So what we can do is we can create clipping mask and just paint over those areas. So let's create new layer, new empty layer, right click on it, create clipping mask. So we've created clipping mask. I hope that you remember that clipping mask means that when we select a color and we paint, or maybe let's use different color, and we paint it, it will be only on the layer that is underneath. So in our case I want to use probably this color. use some soft brush and paint over like this. So I'm getting rid of the light that was in here. So I can actually probably get rid of the light in here a little bit, and maybe I will add some highlights at the top and in those areas at the neck of the bottle. So let's try to use this color probably. Smaller brush. Oh, okay, it's much too much. So what I would do is I will create once again new layer, right click on it, create clipping mask. So for shadows I'm fine with it, but for highlights I will like experiment a little bit more. Maybe I will be actually able to make it work. So right now I will add probably too much, and later I will correct it by changing the opacity. So it's like only barely visible. So the difference, it's not a big difference, but actually once again, like few different steps and it starts looking good. Maybe in here, like I will also change it, like change the opacity to not be so intensive. So I could call it done. There are a few adjustments that I could make it, but in my opinion it's not bad. So the rest of my key visual would be pretty simple. Like I'm doing like really basic stuff. So I would just copy a logo, paste it, not as a pixels, of course, especially logo. I can paste it as a smart object, make it bigger. Let's put it somewhere in here. And unfortunately I have put it in the wrong way, so it disabled my clipping mask. So I will make it clipping mask once again. Create clipping mask, right click, blending options, color overlay, let's switch color to white, click OK, click Ctrl T, probably something like this would work fine. And let's add my slogan at the bottom. So I will click on text, and this would be my slogan. Let's play a little bit with typography, so I will make it much bigger. As you can see by the slogan, it's not expensified, but the bottle is not looking bad. So okay, let's change font to some really simple, maybe this like light, minimalistic. We can change the color to white, and let's see, maybe capital letters. I don't know. We can leave capital letters, and they look fine. So what I dislike at this point is that it's hard to read in those areas. So quick fix to it is just to create over our background, create new layer, click big brush. Let's zoom out with Alt and scroll. Let's grab this color maybe, and let's try to paint with big soft brush like this. So I've added it too much. It's not looking so bad also, but I can change the opacity to have it like at 70%. So right now it's easy to read. We've got and we've created actually our key visual fully. Easy to read slogan, easy to read logo, and decent looking key visual. Okay, so next step is to create my first big media. So this would be a roll up. So let's go to print, centimeters, 80 to 200, but we need to add the bleeds, right? So I think that half centimeter bleed at each side would be fine. So in my case 81 to 201 would be fine. Sometimes I'm not, if for such a big media I'm not even adding the bleeds because they can scale it up a little bit and it wouldn't change anything. But just to make everything by the book, well, we can add the bleeds. I should also change the color more to CMYK, but I know that all those elements will not behave correctly. So I will do it in the end probably. I will switch to, so I would not switch to CMYK color mode, but I can change the resolution for 150. Because it's such a big file, it could easily be working in a lower resolution and still look good. Just for sake for our classes, to make it even faster and easier to work, you can go with resolution 100. Of course, the higher the resolution, the better. On a real project, you should stick to the highest as possible. Like 300 would be great. But in most cases, like the machines cannot even print on such canvas. They cannot even print 300 resolution. Mostly they print in like 150, 200, and that depends on the machine. But we can, for now, we can just stick to 100. So let's click on create. I've converted the background to the standard layer, so I can grab all the layers and I can just move them to my project. Okay, so, and as you can see, the first problem is that my file is much too small, and of course the orientation is a problem. So what I can do, what I have to do, well, I need to adjust my key visual. So I will disable those two elements. I will grab all the layers that were in the back. I will click Ctrl T. I will scale them like this. We are going to lose additional resolution, but this is the size of my key visual. Like it would be better if it would be big, but it's not. So right now I will just click. Well, what I can do, maybe I would merge everything. So right now I can just right click, merge everything. Because I won't edit those layers. I can make a selection like this, click on Ctrl T, and just distort it. We are not able to see that there is a problem with because what it causes is like we've distorted it and we've made a problem with perspective, but we are not able to see it because of how this photo is constructed. Of course, we can do it in a different way. We could grab it like this, Ctrl T, make it like this, right click on it, and play it to a little bit more, like with perspective. So this way it will be even better. So, okay. And once again, standard scale. So this way it has a even better resolution. So so we've added the bottom part of our image. Let's probably this will work better like this, maybe even bigger font. Okay, I'm fine with it. And at the top of the image, well, we can try to make the same trick, or maybe let's create. Okay, maybe let's do a mix of it. So I will grab those elements, click Ctrl T. Probably something like this still looks okay. It's not looking like it's too much distorted. And on those new layer, let's just use brush. Let's take a color from here, and we can try to paint over these areas like this. So we've just modified it to make it look better. And let's turn on the logo. We can put it somewhere in here. What I would do actually is, I think, because to make the logo more visible, is I would paint even more. So something like this. So right now we've created first version of our key visual, and you can already guess what you have to do with the banner. So generally the same steps. So file, new, print, centimeters, 301 and 101. Let's go with resolution 100. RGB color mode at this time. Once again, grab all those layers and adjust everything like we did before. So I can grab those layers, maybe merge them, click Ctrl T, make it bigger, so something like this would be fine. Another layer probably, click brush, and let's try to make this trick, see if it will work. I can see how it's not working as great, like as fast as it was, because of the size of the revolution. So generally something like this, probably like this darker will work better. Yeah, this one looks better. So we have something like this, and we can try to adjust to make it the composition looks a little bit better. So maybe something like this. And the last step is that we need to save it for printing. So let's, but it's in RGB color mode. So we will save it for printing a little bit different than we normally did, because we are going to ignore the trim lines. It's a big media, and in most of the cases this would be fine if you provide. So just to make it, and we can avoid working in Illustrator this way. So let's go to image adjustment, switch color mode, switch color mode to CMYK. We can flatten at this point. It doesn't matter really. So let's just click through all of it, and we've converted it to CMYK color mode. Actually, I had some problem with the conversion. I just cut it out the problem, because by default it should work fine in your Photoshop. Sometimes the colors may change a little bit, but if you have problems, there is something called profiles, and if you go to color settings, you can change what kind of profile you are going to use. So in my case the profile was wrong, but it's not so important for you. It should by default work fine. So I've converted it into CMYK color mode, and right now I can just save it as a TIFF for printing. So I will go to save as. Let's change type of file to TIFF, so it would be good for printing, almost lossless format. So let's call it keyvisual banner. Let's click on save, discard layers and save as a copy. So this is the only thing that you need to select. Click on OK, and that's all. We've created, we can send it to printing company, and it would actually be fine.